Cleopas clutched his small bag tightly, his heart thumped like a drum. Today was the day he finally left Busia Matayos for Nairobi. The air was still and heavy with the scent of dust and drying cow dung. This was the only life he'd ever known. Now he was leaving it all behind. The bus ride was long and bumpy. Cleopas stared out the window. The scenery changed from rolling green hills to flat, dry plains. Small villages gave way to bustling towns. Each stop brought him closer to his destination, closer to the unknown. As the bus rumbled on, his anxiety gave way to a nervous excitement. He thought about his cousin, Otieno, who had promised him a job in Nairobi. He thought about all the stories he had heard about the city of opportunity, the city of dreams. Cleopas closed his eyes, picturing a world of towering buildings and bustling streets. He imagined himself successful and confident, striding through the city streets. A smile touched his lips. This was his chance to make something of himself. The bus screeched to a halt. Cleopas stepped off, blinking in the bright sunlight. Nairobi hit him like a wave. Noise washed over him, car horns blaring, vendors hawking their wares, music thumping from unseen speakers. The air was thick with exhaust fumes and the smell of roasted maize. He stood there, disoriented, his senses overwhelmed. Everything was so different from his quiet village. The buildings scraped the sky, tall and imposing. The streets teemed with people, a sea of humanity rushing in every direction. Cleopas felt a pang of fear. This city was a beast, loud and chaotic. He pulled out Otieno's address, scribbled on a scrap of paper. It felt like a lifeline. He had to find his cousin, find his footing in this concrete jungle. Taking a deep breath, Cleopas plunged into the throng. He dodged hawkers and handcarts, his eyes darting from one side to another. Fear mingled with awe. This city was overwhelming, yes, but it was also exhilarating. Finding his way to Otieno's was an adventure in itself. The streets were a maze, a confusing jumble of Swahili and English signs. People bumped into him, their faces a blur of indifference. He asked for directions several times. His hesitant Swahili met with impatience or amusement. A kind woman, selling bananas by the roadside, finally pointed him in the right direction. Relief washed over him. He wasn't alone in this city after all. There were still people willing to help a lost soul. He finally found Otieno's stall, a colorful kiosk selling everything from cigarettes to mobile phone airtime. Otieno greeted him with a wide grin and a clap on the back. The familiarity, the warmth in his cousin's eyes, calmed the storm within Cleopas. Later, as they sat outside Otieno's tiny room, sharing a meal of ugali and sukuma wiki, Cleopas felt a glimmer of hope. The city was still a daunting labyrinth, but he had someone to guide him. He had taken the first step. As the city lights twinkled around him, Cleopas lay awake on the thin mattress Otieno had provided. The noise of the city, once jarring, was now a lullaby, a constant hum that spoke of life, of movement. He thought about his village, so quiet, so peaceful. Yet it held no opportunities, no promise of a future. Here, in this chaotic city, he saw possibilities. He'd seen men and women, their faces etched with hardship, yet their eyes held a spark of ambition. He'd seen buildings rise high, monuments to human ingenuity and aspiration. Cleopas closed his eyes, his heart filled with a mix of trepidation and excitement. He was a small-town boy, yes, but he was also ambitious, eager to carve his own path. This city, this concrete jungle, was his now, and he was ready to conquer it. He would make his mark, find his place in this symphony of chaos. This was his chance, his time to bloom.